let's kick things off with something genuinely unsettling and work our way toward the stuff that shouldn't even exist. Number 10. The tongue-eating louse. Picture this. A tiny isopod swims into a fish's gills, creeps up into its mouth, and does something no other parasite on Earth does. It munches on the fish's tongue, and then, get this, it takes over. Literally replaces the tongue. Once the louse slices through the blood vessels feeding the tongue shrivels up and falls off. The parasite just latches onto the leftover stub and spends the rest of its life as the fish's new tongue. The fish doesn't seem bothered at all, keeps eating and swimming like usual, with a crustacean hitching a ride in its mouth, swiping bites of food or blood now and then. It's the only time you'll see a parasite step in as a full replacement for an organ. Honestly, if the fish doesn't have problems with it, neither do I. Divers sometimes peek inside these fish just to check and are met with a pair of tiny eyes staring right back at them. That's not the kind of fact you want rattling around in your head before a beach trip, but here you go. Number 9. The guinea worm. Guinea worm has been bothering humans for ages, literally thousands of years. Archaeologists even found mummified remains with these parasites inside from ancient Egypt. You get infected by drinking water that's got these tiny water fleas carrying worm larvae. Once you swallow them, the larvae travel through your gut. They find each other, mate, and the female sets up shop, slowly growing for months inside your body, sometimes stretching out to 3 feet long. For about a year, the worm hides out under your skin. Then, out of nowhere, it makes itself known by creating a blister, usually on your leg or foot. The pain burns so much you'll do anything to stop it, and most people instinctively soak their foot in water. That's exactly what the worm is waiting for. When it gets wet, the blister pops, and the worm spits out thousands of new larvae into the water, starting the nightmare all over again. Getting rid of it is pretty brutal. The traditional method, which people still use, means you have to slowly wind the worm around a stick, pulling out a few centimeters each day. Go too fast, and the worm breaks, which can lead to a nasty infection. This whole process can drag on for weeks. Some think this slow removal, the image of a worm wrapped around a stick, might actually be where the medical symbol with the snake on a staff comes from. It's either a quirky bit of history or the absolute worst thing to learn before your next trip to the doctor. Number 8. The bot fly. The human bot fly comes from Central and South America, and honestly, it's got one of the creepiest ways of reproducing you'll ever hear. It doesn't bother laying its eggs right on people. No, that would be too simple. Instead, it grabs a mosquito, glues its eggs to the mosquito's body, then lets the mosquito go free, like some unsuspecting courier. So, you get bitten by a mosquito, nothing unusual, but the heat from your skin makes those botfly eggs hatch. The larvae drop down, sneak into your skin through the bite, and you don't even feel it happening. Over the next few weeks, the larva sits inside a little pocket under your skin, breathing through a tiny hole it leaves open. Most people just notice a bit of itching or this weird crawling feeling every now and then. Definitely not something you want to discover about your own body. When it's all grown up, picture something about the size of a grape. The larva wriggles out and drops to the ground, moving on with its life. You're left with a small wound that usually heals up on its own. Sometimes doctors get ahead of the game and remove the larva early by smothering it with petroleum jelly or tape. That way it can't breathe and has to come up for air. Honestly, both the smartest and most disturbing fix there is. Number 7. The emerald cockroach wasp. This wasp isn't satisfied with just parasitizing its host. It takes over the whole nervous system. The emerald cockroach wasp hunts cockroaches, but instead of going for a quick kill, it delivers 2 perfectly timed stings. The first sting knocks out the cockroach's front legs for a bit, so the wasp gets a moment to aim the second sting right into a tiny spot in the cockroach's brain. That second sting doesn't end the roach or even freeze it completely. It just stops the cockroach from wanting to escape, flipping off its free will, but leaving its body basically ready to walk. The wasp grabs the cockroach's antenna like a leash and leads it, fully awake, totally docile, straight to an underground burrow. Once they're inside, the wasp lays a single egg on the roach, then seals up the burrow, trapping them together. The cockroach could walk off. It's still alive and mobile, but it just doesn't. It waits, weirdly calm, while the wasp's larva hatches, burrows into its body, and slowly eats it alive from the inside inside out. The larva even saves the vital organs for last, so the roach stays alive as long as possible. That's nature's version of room service. Except this time, you're both the room and the meal. Number 6. Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasma is a tiny parasite with a pretty clever plan. It can only have sex inside a cat's gut, so it needs to make its way back into a cat somehow, and the way it pulls this off is honestly wild. Instead of just sitting around and hoping, Toxoplasma goes straight to the rodent's brain, the parasite's favorite host, and rewires things so that rats and mice aren't scared of cats anymore. Actually, it's even weirder than that. Infected rats and mice end up attracted to the smell of cat urine, a scent they'd normally want to avoid at all costs. Researchers think Toxoplasma messes with the parts of the brain that handle fear, and maybe even sexual attraction, flipping the rodent's alarm system entirely. So instead of running away, the rodent starts poking around, gets a little too curious, and strolls right up to the cat. The cat does what cats do, and the parasite jumps right back into its favorite place, the cat's gut. From there, the cycle starts again. The cat spreads parasite eggs through its poop, waiting for another unsuspecting meal. But here's where things get a little uncomfortable. Toxoplasma doesn't just stick to rodents. Roughly a third of people on Earth are carrying it right now, usually after handling cat litter or eating undercooked meat. Some studies have even drawn lines between long-term Toxoplasma infection in humans and subtle shifts in personality, like taking more risks or changes in reaction times. So yeah, there's a good chance that a parasite evolved to make rats love cats is messing with humans too, without us even realizing it. Number 5. The horsehair worm. The horsehair worm has one thing on its mind: getting from land back into the water so it can reproduce. It's a parasite, and its victims are crickets and grasshoppers, bugs that don't exactly dream about taking a dip. The worm's solution? Just hijack the cricket's body and make that decision for it. It starts when a cricket accidentally eats a horsehair worm larva. Over the next few weeks, the worm grows inside, twisting and coiling until it's actually longer than the cricket itself, just packed in tight like some horrible biological rope. Then, when the worm's good and ready to move on with its life, it releases special proteins. Those mess with the cricket's nervous system, pushing it to head straight for water. The cricket doesn't stand a chance. It just jumps in and drowns right away. Now that the cricket's gone, the horsehair worm bursts free, wriggling out and stretching up to 3 or 4 times longer than the unfortunate bug it called home. It swims off to find a mate and start over. You hear stories from fishermen who catch an innocent-looking insect by mistake, only to get a shock when what looks like a piece of spaghetti suddenly unravels itself and slithers out the moment it hits the water. Number 4. The lancet liver fluke. Now, this parasite needs 3 different victims just to finish its life cycle. Honestly, that's either genius or seriously over the top. It all starts inside a snail. The snail eats fluke eggs by accident, just munching away as usual, and soon enough the fluke's in there. The snail tries to fight back by encasing the parasite in slime and then spitting it out. Doesn't really matter though. The fluke's already prepared for that. It uses the slime ball as a ride to its next host. Along comes an ant, drawn to the sugary slime, totally oblivious, and gobbles it up. Now hundreds of fluke larvae are inside the ant. Most just settle in the abdomen and hang out for a while, but one unlucky larva heads straight for the ant's brain and takes over. Every evening as temperatures drop, the ant feels a weird urge to climb to the very top of a blade of grass and bite down, staying there, just waiting. It sits exposed all night, right where cows or sheep are likely to be grazing. If morning comes and nobody's eaten the grass, the fluke lets go of the ant's brain, and the ant goes back to its usual routine, only for the cycle to restart the next evening. Night after night, this repeats until, finally, a grazing animal eats that blade of grass, and the ant, with the fluke inside, gets swallowed. The fluke lands in its final host's liver, settles in for the long haul, and that's how the whole wild journey wraps up. 3 hosts, 2 species, just so this tiny parasite can live. Number 3. The kangaroo. The kangaroo is a tiny, almost see-through catfish from the Amazon River. Honestly, it's got one of the weirdest and creepiest ways to survive out there. Normally, it's a parasite that targets bigger fish. It hunts by sensing water flowing from their gills, then swims straight into that current and anchors itself inside using little barbed spines. While it's in there, the kangaroo feasts on the fish's blood until it's satisfied. People living near the Amazon treat the kangaroo almost like a horror movie villain. Stories have floated around for ages about this fish swimming right up a stream of urine and into a person's urethra, mistaking it for the gill water of a fish. Once it's inside, those backward spines make pulling it out nearly impossible without surgery. Researchers argue about how often this actually happens to humans. There are only a few solid reports in more than a century. Still, the fear is real. In fact, the legend has convinced generations along the Amazon. Whatever you do, don't ever pee standing in the river. Honestly, that might be the single best parasite prevention tip anyone's ever come up with. Number 2, Naegleria fowleri. People call it the brain-eating amoeba, and honestly, that nickname says it all. This little single-celled terror hangs out in warm freshwater, lakes, hot springs, pool water that's seen better days. Strangely, if you drink it, no big deal. The trouble really starts when water gets shoved up your nose, like when you're diving, jumping in, or even just messing around underwater. Once it's in your nose, Naegleria fowleri catches a right up your olfactory nerve, a straight shot into your brain. That's where it starts to eat brain tissue, and things get bad fast. Most people feel a headache, fever, and nausea after just a few days, but then stuff spirals, confusion hits, seizures kick in, sometimes even hallucinations. Your body just can't keep up. The numbers are brutal. Over 97% of people infected don't survive, and most die within a week of their first symptoms. A few have lived through it, but nobody really knows what saves them. Doctors still can't explain it. Good news! Cases are extremely rare, which is about the only relief in this whole nightmare story. Number 1. Cymothoa exiguus bigger, meaner cousin. No, wait. Number 1. Loa loa, the African eyeworm. This little nightmare, the African eyeworm, comes courtesy of deer flies buzzing around Central and West Africa. The name isn't exaggerating. It's every bit as disturbing as you'd think. Once those flies bite, the worm's larvae sneak in and settle under your skin, slowly maturing for months or even years, taking their sweet time as they travel just out of sight. People who get infected always know something's off. They feel things moving under their skin. Sometimes you can even watch a raised line slide along an arm or leg. But that's just the beginning. What really cements Loa loa's reputation is where it decides to go next. Every once in a while, the adult worm heads for the eye, and I mean right across it, moving under the clear surface while you're wide awake, watching it wriggle. Anyone nearby can watch, too. The show can last several minutes, with the worm crawling right across your vision before slipping back under the skin, and sometimes it circles back for a repeat performance later on. The only way to get rid of it, a doctor needs to wait until the worm's exposed, then carefully pull it out, leaving the unlucky patient sitting perfectly still while something alive inches across their eyeball. Here's the kicker. You don't need to go searching through horror movies or deep, forgotten jungles to meet these creatures. They're real, and hiding in the rivers we swim in, the food we eat, and the water we drink. These parasites run complex, clever strategies for survival. They don't need brains to outsmart us. They've had millions of years to practice.